My journey began with a heartbreaking loss, but a lesson of hope changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The world seemed to shake underneath my feet. It was a sunny afternoon, yet the air felt thick, almost suffocating. I sat at the edge of my bed, tears streaming down my face, my heart pounding in my chest. My hands trembled as I clutched a crumpled piece of paper news of his departure, just like that. No warning, no goodbye, just emptiness. I had always thought grief had a predictable pattern, but I was wrong. It snuck up on me, shadows creeping into every corner of my existence. Family and friends stood around me, their faces a blur of sympathy and concern. They whispered words of comfort, but all I heard was the deafening silence of absence. My mother's gentle embrace felt more like a weight, anchoring me to despair. My sister's bright smile failed to light up the dull world I inhabited. The house echoed with memories of laughter, now haunting reminders of what once was. I could hear the faint sound of his laughter, bubbling up from the depths of the past, teasing me with fleeting joy. I felt shattered, grasping at wisps of despair like trying to hold on to smoke. The strangest thing was, days turned into weeks, yet the pain never really left. It wrapped around my heart like a cold chain. Just when I thought the darkness would swallow me whole, something shifted. A flicker of hope glimmered on the horizon. I was drawn to an old, dusty box in the attic, forgotten treasures of his life. Each item echoed stories untold, each photograph a testament to the love we shared. A worn-out journal caught my eye, the leather cover cracked and faded. As I opened it, the familiar smell of ink and time flooded my senses. His words leapt off the pages, alive with emotion. The entries spoke of dreams, laughter, fierce, a connection that pulsed with every heartbeat. Suddenly, I wasn't alone. The ink wove his spirit into my own, whispering secrets that only I could understand. In that moment, I felt the tight grip of grief begin to loosen just a fraction, as if the weight of loss was sharing its burden with the beauty of memory. But just as the light began to break through the clouds, a flurry of questions shot through my mind. What did he leave behind? What secrets remained buried in those pages? Why hadn't I known this part of him? Could his words guide me to something more? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows in my room, the light dimming just as my spirit felt heavy once more. The journal lay open on my lap, his words swirling in my consciousness like a dance of unresolved questions and buried ties. Each time I turned a page, I felt an electric tension, as if I was unearthing more than just memories. I was reaching into the depths of who he was, who he wanted to be. The soft whispers of his hopes nudged me, encouraging me to keep reading, but dread settled in my stomach. What if uncovering these truths only unearthed more pain? A knock on the door startled me, and my mother entered, a cup of tea in her hands. "I thought you might be thirsty," she said softly, cautiously stepping closer. "Thanks," I replied, the warmth of the cup contrasting with the chill that had nestled in my heart. My mother sat beside me, hesitating as she tried to navigate the emotional minefield between us. "I saw you've been spending time with his things," she ventured, her voice trembling slightly. I nodded, my focus fixed on the journal's well-worn pages. "I found this," I said quietly, holding it out to her. "It's full of his thoughts." Her gaze softened as she took the journal in her hands. I could see the tremor run through her fingers, as if she feared it might crumble under the weight of her nostalgia. "He always put so much of himself into his writing," she said, her voice catching. "It was one of the ways he coped, one of the reasons I fell in love with him." I studied her. In this moment, amidst the silence of shared sorrow, her unresolved grief mirrored my own, layers of hurt and yearning transcending between us. "What was he like?" I dared to ask, my heart pounding as I yearned to bridge the silence that had grown between our experiences. My mother paused, her face illuminating with a mix of melancholy and remembrance. He was ambitious, she began, her eyes turning distant. A dreamer who believed in making a mark in the world. He often wrote about wanting to change lives, touched by the desire to make everything a little brighter. Her words struck a chord deep within me. I turned back to the journal, reading words that declared aspirations, adventures he had yearned to embark upon. What had stopped him? What had he never shared with me? Questions bloomed like wildflowers, but wilted quickly under the weight of my denial. As the days dragged on, I kept the journal close, reading and rereading his thoughts, each entry like a tiny victory against the empty void he left behind. Yet, nighttime brought the memories crashing back. I could see him laughing, his carefree spirit casting a warmth over me that was both a comfort and a torment. One evening, lost amidst a flurry of thoughts, I sat on the floor with the journal cradled in my hands, a new entry pulling my attention. There are times when darkness feels insurmountable, but I believe light exists, even in the smallest of prayers. My breath hitched as I felt an underlying message hidden within, resonating with my own struggles to find hope. The following morning, I decided to act on my curiosity, venturing into town to visit the local library. I needed more context, more layers to his story. Perhaps through his dreams, scattered fragments could reel me back together. The librarian, a kind-hearted woman named Mrs. Goodwin, remembered my father well. With a gentle smile, she helped me sift through archives, revealing his accomplishments and the legacy he had tried to create. Your father wanted to establish a community center, a place where everyone could learn and grow, she told me, her voice filled with warmth. He had a vision, a heart full of love for those around him. He wanted to make a real difference. Each word unfurled a bittersweet thrill within me, making me realize how much I wanted to know who he really was. Just as my hope was reigniting, a different kind of uncertainty surfaced that evening. An envelope lay on my doorstep, marked with my mother's handwriting. My heart quickened as I tore it open, revealing a letter. I need to tell you something about your father, an important truth I never shared. It read. My pulse raced, the echo of my mother's words resonating in the chaos of my tangled heart. What truth had she been carrying, buried alongside her grief? Before I could steady myself, my phone buzzed a message that sent a spike of fear through me. We need to talk. There's something you must know. It read, from a number I didn't recognize. That I felt the world tumble beneath me once more. Uncertainty clawed at my chest, shadows of unanswered questions tightening their grip. How was I supposed to assess the secrets entwined with the love I'd always carried? My journey, once fueled by hope, now faced yet another abyss of emotions. The letter felt heavier in my hands than its fragile parchment should have suggested. I glanced over my shoulder, the stillness of the house amplifying the turmoil within. Stepping backward into the shadows, I sank into the cushioned corner of the sofa. The journal nestled on my lap as a familiar anchor. The warmth coiled from my mother's words intertwined with the cold sensation of dread crawling beneath my skin. What truth had lingered, cocooned in silence, waiting for the right moment to shatter our fragile reality? Tentatively, I unfolded the letter, the scent of aged ink filling my lungs, reminding me of the library and the echoes of his dreams that still danced in my memory. I need to tell you something about your father, an important truth I never shared. That I blinked, willing my heart to slow its rapid beat as I continued reading. Her penmanship was neat, laced with unspoken emotions. After he passed, a piece of his life was revealed to me that he had kept hidden, an affair that changed everything. Each word felt like a stone thrown into a still lake, creating ripples of disbelief and sorrow. I was devastated to learn this, but I believe you deserve to know. What was she saying? An affair? My thoughts spiraled like a vice, gripping my heart tighter. The image of my father, the man I yearned to meet in his entirety, began to twist into something alien. Was he not the dreamer she had described, the man devoted to helping others? I felt a rush of anger and betrayal, drowning out any sense of understanding that could have emerged. For a moment, I envisioned confronting my mother, seeking answers to the questions that bubbled to the surface. Yet, I hesitated. This revelation weighed upon me as much as it did on her. What lay beneath her silent grief? Perhaps she carried shadows I could not fathom. How could I bear witness to her pain while grappling with my own? The phone buzzed again, pulling me from the edge of my spiraling thoughts. I glanced at the unfamiliar number, its starkness striking against the muted backdrop of my grief. My thumb hovered over the screen, nerves humming, and yet, something compelled me. We need to talk. There's something you must know. The urgency was palpable, a beckoning I could not ignore that I found myself anchoring into the stillness of the night, letting the swirling thoughts settle like falling leaves. Gathering my resolve, I pushed the dark cloud of uncertainty aside and typed a response. "Am listening. Who are you?" The words felt foreign on my fingertips, yet they dripped with the courage I had been struggling to reclaim. Time seemed to stretch into eternity as I awaited a response, the silence pressing into my bones. I turned back to the journal, flipping through the pages in a futile attempt to find solace. There are times when despair can feel limitless. One entry began, but in the cracks of every dark moment, I still believe in the flicker of hope, in the possibility of second chances. That particular line soared through my mind like a glimmer of light breaking the clouds. I realized then that my own journey mirrored his struggles. Perhaps this had been my father's way of preparing me for whatever dark secrets life had stored for us. As I pondered, the phone vibrated again, a reply illuminating the screen. "Your father was involved with someone else. You need to understand, Tess, it may impact everything you thought you knew." A chill washed over me, a cold shiver racing down my spine. Who was this stranger who claimed to have insight into the depths of my father's life? I clutched the journal, trying to ground myself. I could almost hear my father's voice resonating through the ages, urging me to find the truth, to confront the shadows. Just then, my heart clenched as I recalled the conversation with Mrs. Goodwin earlier that a brief reference she let slip about a woman who had often accompanied him during his community outreach efforts. Had there been more to that connection than I had initially grasped? Pieces of a puzzle began revealing themselves, each fragment falling into place while leaving space for new questions. My father's legacy was not just about his dreams, it was about relationships, choices, and the fragility of trust. Each revelation weaved an emotional tapestry that I had yet to fully unravel. As night deepened, I found perhaps the hardest truth of all. The journey of uncovering my father's life was also the journey of understanding my own. Each heartbreak crashing into the ebb and flow of light and shadow within me. Just as clarity began to pierce the fog of uncertainty, another message blinked into existence on my phone screen. "Meet me tomorrow at the cafe on Elm Street. I need to tell you everything." The words hung over me like rain clouds, threatening to burst open with unrelenting force. I bit my lip, torn between fear and an insatiable curiosity. Just then, a soft knock came at the door, but the pounding in my heart drowned out the sound. The world narrowing to the secret I had yet to uncover. I stood and took a deep breath. In searching for my father, I was learning about myself. But with newfound knowledge came greater peril, as the past threatened to consume everything I believed. As I turned toward the source of that knock, I felt a mix of hope and dread eerily weaving together, and I prepared myself to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that the deepest truths are often the hardest to bear. The soft knock persisted, fraying at the edges of my resolve. With a shaky exhale, I approached the door, my mind racing with possibilities. What had I been expecting? A neighbor? A friend? The specter of my father? I hesitated, fingers hovering over the doorknob, the weight of the letter still clutched in my fist. Each second felt like an eternity, pregnant with the potential to unveil yet another shard of truth. That I parted the door to reveal Mrs. Goodwin. Her lined face a tapestry of years and wisdom, her eyes filled with something that resembled concern. "I thought I'd check on you," she said softly, her voice a quiet comfort in the starkness of the evening. She held a steaming mug in her hands, the rich aroma of fresh chamomile wafting toward me. "You seemed lost earlier." A wave of gratitude surged through me, warming the edges of my heart. "Thank you, Mrs. Goodwin." "I'm managing," I replied, though the words felt like a fragile mask against the turmoil I felt within. I stepped aside, and she entered, her presence illuminating the shadows of my uncertainty. She settled into the armchair across from me, the mug cradled between her palms. Her familiar surroundings seemed to breathe in sync with my own racing heartbeat. "You know, Sometimes the burdens we carry become too great to shoulder alone. It's okay to seek comfort in those around you. Her gaze pierced through the fog of my thoughts, coaxing me toward vulnerability. That I received a letter from my mother, I confessed, the words spilling forth before I could reconsider. It's about my father, things I never knew. It felt strangely liberating to share my struggle with someone who had once shared my father's dreams, someone who might illuminate the tangles I couldn't decipher. Mrs. Goodwin sat up a little straighter, concern deepening the creases of her brow. Your father was a good man, full of passion, she began carefully. But like all of us, he had his struggles, his secrets. I felt my heart quicken. Did she know more than she was letting on? Why do you think he hid so much from you? I shook my head, fighting against the swell of emotions threatening to spill over. I don't know if it was to protect me or to shield himself from the truth he couldn't bear. Another painful reality dawned, one that mocked the image of my father I desperately held on to. There's beauty in the struggle, Mrs. Goodwin added gently, her words caressing my frayed spirit. Life is not black and white, and sometimes the most profound growth emerges from the shadows. That I nodded slowly, contemplating her encouragement. What if my journey wasn't solely about decoding my father's past, but also about learning my own resilience? Though fear loomed over me, a tiny flicker of courage began to defy Ida realization that understanding a man doesn't erase his flaws, but humanizes them. She continued, if you're willing, I'd be glad to help you find the answers you seek. I loved your father, but I wasn't privy to his entire story. We were all just trying to make sense of our own lives amid the chaos. A glimmer of hope sparked within Memabe. Just maybe, my path now intertwined with providing solace to others who carried burdens similar to mine. I could choose to weave compassion into the fraying fabric of my family's legacy, one stitch at a time. Just as I was about to express my gratitude, my phone buzzed again, tearing me from the warmth of connection. Turning my gaze back to the screen, the message felt like a thunderclap within the quiet space. I know you've spoken with Mrs. Goodwin. The truth is more complicated than you realize. You have to meet me. My pulse raced as I read it. Was this another thread pulling me deeper, or a warning sign? Mrs. Goodwin's face reflected my unease. Who is it? She asked, genuine concern shadowing her features. That I don't know. I stammered, an uncomfortable mix of determination and dread surging inside. Each revelation was drawing the lines of my experiences tighter as the unknown loomed larger. They say there's something I need to know. Her hand reached across the space between us, warm and steady. Listen to your instincts. But remember, you don't have to go through this alone. Clutching the journal and the fading remnants of hope, I felt torn between two worlds. The sanctity of my father's memories and the unsettling truth that threatened to unravel them entirely. What if this leads to something I'm not ready to face? Mrs. Goodwin smiled gently, her eyes sparkling with kindness that mirrored the stories of my father. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the choice to move forward despite it. Something within me shimmered at her words. A glimmer of recognition. The potential path that lay ahead was laden with both darkness and light. As I prepared to respond to the message, my resolve hardened. I would meet this stranger who claimed to know more, and while the shadows loomed large, I remembered Mrs. Goodwin's words. Life's beauty often resided within the complexities of its struggles. And then, just as I pressed send, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen. My heart leaped into my throat, every instinct screaming for me to investigate. As I shot a frantic glance at Mrs. Goodwin, her expression had turned serious. What was that? Stay here, I urged, though I knew the weight of fear clawed at me. I needed to understand what lay beyond the portal of the unknown. As I approached the darkened hallway, the air thick with uncertainty, I felt the familiar weight of a journey that was just beginning to unravel, a journey steeped in heartbreak, hope, and a scattering of truths yet to be unveiled. And with each footstep, I couldn't shake the feeling that this night would reveal far more than I had prepared to confront. The kitchen lay ahead, shadows swaying with the flickering light, casting uneasy forms across the walls. My heart thundered with each step, an almost primal instinct to recoil and retreat mingled with the desperate urge to uncover the truth hiding in the darkness. The steel of my resolve dulled, yet the crash reverberated in my mind, compelling me forward. As I approached the door, I paused, the chill of the moment wrapping around me. I glanced back at Mrs. Goodwin, who was still seated in the armchair, her eyes glued to me with an expression of concern laced with restraint. "Be careful," she whispered, her voice a gentle reminder of the tether that kept me grounded amid the tempest of emotions. Gripping the doorframe, I pushed it open and stepped inside, my breath catching in my throat. The kitchen appeared in disarray. The porcelain teacups I had brought out earlier were strewn across the floor, shards catching the light like glistening tears. My stomach twisted. Was this an accident? An intrusion? My heart raced as I scanned the dimly lit room. The heavy silence was intoxicating, a melody that thrummed with an eerie tension. Just then, movement on the counter caught my eye, and I instinctively turned toward it. A dark figure loomed, someone silhouetted against the window's glow. I felt a chill rip through me, and I took a tentative step forward, my breath trembling on the cusp of fear. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice stronger than I felt. But it wavered, and uncertainty slithered down my spine. The figure shifted, and with it, my heart dropped. Recognition clawed at the edges of my mind. "Please don't be afraid." The voice was low, almost soothing, and yet dissonant in its familiarity. "It's me, I just need to talk." "Talk?" I echoed, disbelief pouring into my words. Relief washed over me, though the shadows of suspicion still loomed. My brother, Ethan, stood at the counter, his face partially illuminated by the overhead light, revealing the worry etched into his features. "You frightened me. What are you doing here?" "I followed you," he said, a tremor in his tone. "I had to see for myself. You're in danger." The weight of his words fell heavily upon me, curling my stomach into knots. "What? Why would you say that? What do you mean?" I felt the precarious balance of our family dynamics shift, years of silence and distance shadowing the space between us. "Because I've been doing my own digging," he replied, urgency clawing at his voice. "You've uncovered something, haven't you?" Awash in the implication of his question, I felt the urge to retreat. In a way, I confessed, my heart aching with the weight of what remained unspoken. "But it's more about what I've lost than what I've found." Ethan's expression shifted, sympathy threading through his eyes. "It's about Dad, isn't it? The things he left behind?" A lump rose in my throat as I nodded, shame and confusion mixing in an unfamiliar cocktail of emotions. My parents were supposed to shield me from the harshness of the world, but all they had given me was a jigsaw puzzle with too many missing pieces. "Listen," he urged, stepping closer, his voice dropping conspiratorially. "There are people out there who know more than they let on. People who may have hurt Dad. I think you're caught in the middle of something bigger than either of us." "Bigger?" I repeated, incredulous. How could it get any bigger than the questions I'm already asking? Ethan's brow furrowed, and the weight of his gaze anchored me in place. "You think the letters and whispers are random?" "I think they're pieces of a much larger tragedy, woven into the fabric of our family story. We need to tread carefully." The chill ran deeper than fear. It was the cold grasp of a truth I had dared to venture into, threads of danger and uncertainty beginning to weave through my consciousness. "What do you know?" I demanded, an urgency lacing my voice even as apprehension coiled inside. Before he could respond, Mrs. Goodwin entered the kitchen, her presence alight amidst the brewing storm of revelations. "Ethan," she said, her tone a soothing balm to the tension. "I didn't expect you here. It's not safe to talk in the open. You both don't understand." He insisted, throwing his hands up in frustration. "There are eyes on us, people who want the past buried. I need you to trust me." As my brother spoke, an unsettling realization clicked in place. The someone who had messaged me was closer than I had anticipated, casting shadows over the light we sought. With the fraying threads of my family's history unraveling, I was caught in a storm, and the refuge I sought now felt as vulnerable as the shattered cups beneath our feet. "Enough of this," I snapped, my voice rising above the cacophony of emotions. "What do you think you know? What are we even dealing with here?" Just then, my phone buzzed once more. I snatched it up, heart lodged in my throat. The screen glowed with a new message. "I know what you're planning. You don't understand the danger you're in." I looked at Ethan and Mrs. Goodwin, both staring at me with a mixture of alarm and anticipation. "What danger?" I whispered. The kitchen felt suddenly smaller, the possibilities spiraling out of control, and I was left standing on the edge, balancing between the truth and the daunting unknown. The night had promised revelations, yet as I realized the depths of the shadows impending on our fragile connections, the weight of the past threatened to consume us all. A lesson of hope felt further out of reach as uncertainty gripped my heart, the cliff of fear looming larger than ever. Before anyone could respond, I turned the phone around to face them, the brightness of the screen illuminating the darkened corners of the kitchen. "Look at this," I urged, my voice a mixture of desperation and outrage. The message seemed to mock me, a chilling reminder that there were forces at play far beyond the personal struggles I had been facing. Ethan took a cautious step toward me, an apprehensive look crossing his features. "Who sent that? Do you recognize the number?" He was closer now, a stark contrast to the walls of silence that had long divided us that I shook my head, fighting back the swell of panic. "I have no idea." I thought I bit my lip, the words tangled by unresolved feelings. I thought it was someone trying to help out Mrs. Goodwin placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "No one would send a warning unless they had something to gain. We must tread carefully." Her voice trembled ever so slightly, echoing my anxiety. Suddenly, my mind was racing, piecing together broken memories and half-formed thoughts whispering from the depths of my past. What if this is connected to Dad? To all those secrets the air felt heavy, choking me with the weight of unsaid words. Ethan swallowed, a measure of fear flashing in his eyes. "That's what I'm afraid of." I realized it when I found those old files in the attic. They were hidden, like they didn't want to be found. But they're the key to understanding what really happened. The mention of the files sent a shockwave through me. Images of dusty boxes filled with faded photographs and papers cluttered my mind. A childhood spent rummaging through layers of our family history had always left a bittersweet taste. So much love, yet so many unanswered questions. "Ethan, what did you find?" I dared to ask, my voice hitching in anticipation. He hesitated, searching for the right words as the silence stretched like taffy, taut and painful. Finally, he spoke, clarity breaking through the uncertainty. "I found inconsistencies, details that didn't add up. Letters from unknown sources. They referenced something that happened before you were born, something that made Dad leave. It might have affected everything." The enormity of his revelation hit me hard, crashing over my heart like waves on a stormy shore. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I whispered, a mix of anger and hurt bubbling to the surface. "That I was scared," he admitted, each syllable heavy with regret. "Scared of what it would mean for you, for us." I didn't know how to bridge the years of silence. Tension crackled between us, the gulf of our estrangement becoming a distant memory in the face of this shared truth. Yet even as we stood at the precipice of clarity, shadows loomed larger, reminding us that knowledge could be a dangerous thing. There was a newfound connection beginning to form, yet we had to navigate through the murky waters ahead together. I took a breath, determination hardening my resolve. "Then we need to find those letters. We need to uncover whatever it is that Dad buried." Just as I spoke those words, the muted clenching of footsteps echoed from outside, growing louder with each passing second. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end, and I exchanged a worried glance with both Ethan and Mrs. Goodwin. "Someone's coming," Mrs. Goodwin whispered, moving instinctively to block the exit. "We have to hide the evidence." My heart raced as the sound intensified, a dread crawling up my spine. I darted to the counter where the scattered porcelain lay, hastily gathering the shattered pieces and shoving them into a drawer. "Help me," I cried, urgency spilling from my voice, fear mounting with each inch the noise approached. Ethan raced to my side, pushing away debris to conceal any remnants of our conversation. The front door swung open, the old hinges creaking ominously. A figure stepped into the dim light, silhouetted against the doorway like a specter from our past. I couldn't see their face, but the familiarity lurked just beyond reach, stirring a wave of recognition. "Nice to see you again," the figure said, the voice steeped in a chilling nonchalance that sent shivers cascading through the room. I froze, fingers trembling around the jagged shards, an icy dread pooling deep inside. Everything we had pieced together, the fragile threads of connection, teetered on the brink of unraveling. My breath caught in my throat as a single thought rattled through my mind. The truth might not be ours to uncover after all. The figure stepped fully into the kitchen light, and I felt the air condense around me. My heartbeat echoed in my ears, both rapid and thunderous as I met the gaze of the person who had seemingly emerged from the shadows of our past. It was Alex, our estranged uncle, the one person my father had distanced himself from entirely. A figure whose existence loomed heavy yet unseen, like a storm cloud ready to burst. Alex, I managed to breathe, disbelief mingling with the fury blossoming in my chest. What are you doing here? Ethan instinctively leaned closer to me, an unspoken promise of protection encasing us in a shared resolve. The warmth of his presence was a stark contrast to the chill that had settled in the room. Seems like I can't get away from family reunions, can I? Alex replied, a forced grin cracking across his face that didn't reach his eyes. I heard whispers about Dad's passed from a friend, and I thought it was time we had a real chat. This isn't the time for a chat, I shot back, trying not to let the vulnerability creep into my voice, but the tremor was evident. You didn't care when he was alive. Maybe I didn't, but things have changed. His eyes darted around the kitchen as if assessing whether the walls had ears. You all have no idea what you're dabbling with. Leaving stones unturned can lead to dangerous consequences. Mrs. Goodwin finished for him, stepping forward, resolve unwavering despite the gathering storm. We've all heard enough warnings in this family. What do you really want, Alex? Let's just say, I'm here to help you find what you're looking for. He shifted uncomfortably and gestured around the disjointed room. But if you keep burying the past, you might find it ends up burying you. His tone was disquieting, freighted with unsaid truths. With every word, I felt my resolve to gather the scattered pieces of our family history falter. Although we were divided by years of silence and resentment, a small ember of curiosity sparked within me. What did he know? What could he reveal about the threads that tied our broken family together? You think we'll trust you just like that? Ethan stepped forth, voice steady but eyes filled with the resolve of someone who had seen too much in too little time. You vanished when we needed family. What makes you think we'll believe a word you say? There was a profound, aching silence. Hope and doubt swirled around us like the wind outside, eroding the fragile connection we had only just begun to mend. Guilt seeped into the air between us, thickening my throat. Just then, the distant sound of a siren echoed through the neighborhood, slicing through the tension. I could hear my heart pounding. It wasn't just a warning for the present. It felt like a reminder of everything that had brought us to this momentous culmination of choices, regret, and lost time. That I don't need your trust. Alex shrugged, unfazed by Ethan's dismissal. I just need you to know that there are people who don't want these letters to be found. They are watching you. Watching us. The edges of my vision darkened as his words landed. My mind was a chaotic labyrinth of past events and present fears, realizing how intertwined the safety and truth of our lives truly were. What do you mean? I pressed, my voice shaking despite my attempt at fortitude. What could be so dangerous about some old letters? Those letters hold secrets, secrets that could unravel everything. He replied cryptically, his gaze boring into mine. With every passing second, his expression shifted from indifference to something deeper, something that flickered with regret. It's not just about your dad anymore. It's about all of us. Why should we believe you? Mrs. Goodwin interjected, her voice steady, but the quiver betrayed her anxiety. You've been on the periphery of our lives long enough, never offering help when we truly needed it. If you refuse, you'll lose any chance of understanding your past, he insisted, a fervency rising in his voice that forced my heartbeat to synchronize with his urgency. But if you're willing to listen, I can help you find the truth before it destroys more than just your family memories. A long, tension-filled pause enveloped us, each breath weighted by the looming promise of danger. Could we trust this man who had skirted the edges of our lives? Did we even have a choice? Why do you even care? Ethan's voice was low but firm, his conviction giving life to the question that hung in the air. Because I want to keep you from making the same mistakes my brother did. Alex's voice cracked, revealing an unexpected vulnerability. If you don't realize what you're up against, history is bound to repeat itself, and I won't lose you too. Against my will, a fragile sense of connection grew within the chaos, this fragile sense of family straining to surface amidst fear. But I couldn't escape the gnawing sense of foreboding that Alex might not just be offering salvation, but a truth steeped in betrayal. I felt the sirens drawing closer, and an unsettling chill clung to the air. The atmosphere shifted once more. My phone buzzed in my pocket, interrupting the moment, and when I retrieved it, a new message flashed across the screen, an unknown number again. It's happening. You're too late. They know that my heart sank, and dread washed over me, eclipsing any flicker of hope I had managed to grasp. The past was no longer merely a whisper. It had become a formidable storm, with dark clouds swirling overhead, and I stood waiting for the inevitable tempest to fully arrive. The kitchen felt suffocatingly small, closing in on me as the weight of the unknown pressed against my chest. The message blurred in my vision, echoing the chaos of the night: the sirens, Alex's cryptic warnings, and now this, a new threat that sent my heart racing. A tempest of emotions clashed inside me, doubts and fears wrestling with the flickering flame of hope that Alex might provide answers. "Who is this?" I whispered, not expecting an answer. Yet, the tap-tap of Ethan pacing nearby brought my attention back to the room. He wore an expression of fierce determination, but I could tell he was as unsettled as I was. If it weren't for his unyielding presence, I might have crumpled entirely. "Whoever sent that is trying to intimidate us," he said, his voice slicing through the tension. "They might be testing us, or warning us," I replied, my gaze darting back to Alex. His mask of indifference was faltering, and I could see the shadow of guilt etching deeper lines into his face. "Those who don't want the letters found will not stop at threats. They'll come for us," Alex warned, his eyes searching my face as if trying to uncover my resolve. "And you think we should trust you?" I asked incredulously, my voice rising. "You disappeared from our lives when we needed you. Why should we welcome your return now?" "Because I know what they're capable of," he insisted, clenching his fists at his sides. "And I won't let anyone else suffer for my choices. I lost my brother once. I can't afford to lose you too." His words struck a chord, reverberating through the intricate web of feelings I was caught in. Behind the anger and betrayal, a fragile understanding flickered. Alex was still shaped by the very scars we bore, marred by the same history that had haunted every room of our lives. "Enough," Mrs. Goodwin exclaimed, her voice steady and authoritative. "We need to focus on what matters right now: the letters. If they pose a threat, we need to take action to as." The reality of her words sank in. I felt the urgency settle in my bones. The letters were a lifeline to the truth. Yet the path forward was obscured by shadows of the past. "But where do we even start?" I murmured, ready to take the plunge, unwilling to let fear dictate our actions any longer. "Your father kept them hidden well," Alex began, some spark igniting in his eyes. "He didn't want anyone to know, not even Ma, but I have a clue. A place he spoke about somewhere significant to him." "And where's that?" Ethan pressed, leaning forward, determination radiating from him. "I in the old barn at the edge of our property. It's been abandoned for years. Unless it's fallen apart completely. It's possible those letters are still there," Alex revealed, each word carefully weighing the risk involved in this revelation. "How do we trust that you're not leading us into a trap?" I asked, feeling a knot of apprehension tighten within me. "I'm not asking for your trust," Alex replied, defensiveness creeping back into his voice. "I'm asking for a chance to prevent a legacy of pain, a chance to make amends for the family I failed." That a heavy silence enveloped us, each of us wrestling between doubt and an undeniable glimmer of hope that perhaps we could still uncover the truth before it was too late. The sirens outside had faded, but the threat still loomed. "I can't believe we're even considering this," Ethan said, his brow furrowed in deep thought. "What if it's a trap? What if then we prepare ourselves?" Mrs. Goodwin interjected firmly. "If these letters are our only means of understanding the past, then so be it. We face this together. We have to know what we're dealing with." Her conviction was enough to steel my resolve. Whatever skeletons lay hidden, whatever shadows threatened us, we were family. We had no choice but to confront it. "Let's go then," I said, driven by newfound strength. "We can't let fear keep us from knowing our own history." "We're going to the barn." As we grabbed our jackets, the atmosphere shifted from uncertainty to determination. I wasn't about to let the past slip through our fingers again. The drive there was punctuated by an unsettling quiet. My heart thudded as we pulled up to the weathered barn, its old wooden structure looming ominously against the darkening sky. "Stay close," I whispered to Ethan, my hand searching for his in the front seat. He clasped it firmly, grounding me as we stepped out into the cool night air. the scent of damp earth mingling with the anticipation buzzing in my veins. There was something almost sacred about this place, a shrine to forgotten burdens and untold truths. But as we approached the barn's entrance, a flicker of movement caught my eye, and I froze. A figure melted into the shadows just beyond the edge of the wooden structure. My heart leaped into my throat. "Did you see that?" I whispered, instantly wishing I hadn't. "Who is it?" Ethan's voice was low, laced with an edge of alarm. Slowly, I shook my head, dread ballooning inside me. I was unsure, but whatever sought to find us, the game was larger than Alex or the letters it had imbued our lives with a terrifying sense of urgency. Before I could say another word, the figure stepped forward, revealing a familiar face, someone I had hoped never to see again. "Thought you could leave without me?" "My brother, Jake," said, a sly smile spreading across his face, but his eyes betrayed a deeper knowing. Behind him stood two others, and the air thickened with an even heavier threat. "Jake," I gasped, realization crashing down like the weight of the world. How had it come to this? Just when I thought I could face the shadows of our past, everything twisted once more, plunging us into uncertainty, fear, but also the bitter inkling of something I thought lost loyalty, because family remained an unbreakable bond even when it threatened to consume us. The silence that enveloped me was deafening. Jake's presence loomed like a ghost, his familiar silhouette drawing memories that felt both comforting and terrifying. The troubled times we had weathered together flooded back, but alongside them came the knowledge of all that had changed. "What are you doing here?" I finally managed to ask, my voice trembling. "Nice to see you too, sis," he replied, his tone dripping with irony. The small smile didn't reach his eyes, which reflected a darker cocktail of emotions, resentfulness and longing. "I came to see what all the fuss was about." Ethan shifted beside me, his hand tightening around mine, casting a glance at Jake that said he meant business. "You shouldn't be here, Jake," he said with quiet authority, his protective instincts flaring. With a nonchalant shrug, Jake leaned against the barn's splintered wood. "Oh, but I think I should. You can't just waltz back into our lives, pretending everything's fine. There's too much at stake," he challenged. "Like you would know anything about stakes," I snapped, the words escaping before I could filter out the venom. Irritation and pent-up worry bubbled beneath the surface. The temptation to reach out and slide back into the comfort of brotherly camaraderie was stifled by the weight of unresolved issues hanging heavily. "Enough." Alex's voice cut into the charged atmosphere. "Right now, we have to decide what we're doing here. We either look for the letters inside, or we waste our time arguing." Jake shared a glance with his companions, an unspoken rapport coursing between them. My heart raced, my instincts flaring at the sight. Who were these people, and what did they want? As if reading my thoughts, Jake said, "Don't worry, they're with me. Just a little backup in case our dear sibling here has forgotten how nasty things can get." "Isn't it convenient?" I replied, my voice barely concealing the quiver of fear, to have backup for a little homecoming. The tension thickened, turning palpable as everyone remained silent, each of us weighing the past against the fragile present. I caught a flicker of hurt in Jake's expression, but pain had built walls for so long it was hard to tell if he was even aware of them anymore. "Why are you really here?" I pressed, my voice softer now, desperate to peel back the layers of self-protection he wore like armor. "That I came for you, Rhea," he said, an edge of vulnerability piercing through his bravado. "I thought maybe this time it would be different. That maybe you'd want me back. Want to know what happened with." He paused, his voice thickening as he struggled to swallow the words. "With Dad." His honesty resonated with the fragile threads of my own emotions. Echoes of grief filled the space between us. For so long, the fear of losing him had seemed more significant than the anger I harbored. It had become easier to push him away than to confront the ache. Yet standing there, on the precipice of something monumental, I couldn't shake the feeling of connection threading through the chaos, a bond that might yet offer strength. "Jake," I hesitated, unsure of how to bridge the chasm that had formed between us. But just as I opened my mouth to speak, a loud rumble of thunder roared from above, drowning out my thoughts. The sky unleashed its fury, sending torrents of rain crashing against the barn's roof. "Great," Ethan muttered. "Just what we needed." "I am not leaving. I care about what's happening here," Jake insisted, resolutely stepping closer to the entrance, undeterred by the rain. You're all stubborn as hell, but I can help. We need to look at those letters. Together. Why should we trust you? I shot back, each word fired with defiance. You disappeared when it mattered most, and now you want to play the hero? His gaze bore into mine, and for a moment, I saw the boy I had assumed was lost, a boy who had once fought tooth and nail for family. Because I want to understand, he replied, raw sincerity brimming in his voice. I hate how things ended. I need this as much as you do. The flicker of hope within me stirred. Could we really sit at the same table after so much conflict? But, before I could respond, one of Jake's companions piped up, Look, we're wasting time. Are we doing this or not? We need to get inside before the rain makes it impossible. Fine, Alex relented, his brow knitted tightly. But if Jake's in on this, we do it on our terms. If tethered by some invisible thread, we moved toward the barn, entering a space filled with dust and shadows. The scent of damp would mixed with age and secrets that had lingered too long. Each step into the barn seemed to pull us deeper into the past, where conversations were left unfinished and the truths we sought lay heavy and obscured in the dim light, hope tangled with fear. I could feel it course through us, this unfamiliar alliance's training against history, yet begging for a chance to rewrite our narrative. But as the storm outside raged, an unfamiliar sound broke through the whispers of the window, low vibration that seemed to pulse from the barn's far corner, echoing ominously. What was that? Ethan's voice trembled, cutting through the silence like a knife. My heart stilled. The ground beneath felt like it was shifting, and as I turned toward the source of the noise, a realization dawned. We were not alone in this search. Not just the ghosts of our past, but something else was waiting, lurking, hidden deep within the barn's shadows. And suddenly, with each heartbeats echoing in the stillness, a profound sense of dread began to wash over me. I had stepped into a live storm that threatened to unravel everything. And with our secrets merging with the dark, a shocking revelation hung in the air, waiting to be unleashed. The tension was palpable as we stood in the barn, a motley crew bound by history, grief, and a desperate need for truth. The low vibration echoed through the space, sending a shiver down my spine. The shadows clung to each corner, hiding remnants of a past I felt unworthy to explore. What is that noise? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Jake moved toward the source first, his tall form illuminated momentarily by an occasional flash of lightning outside. I don't know, but it sounds like it's coming from over here, he replied, gesturing to the far right corner where the darkness seemed thicker, more foreboding. Ethan took a step closer to me, a protective aura emanating from him as he searched my eyes. We need to be careful, he urged, concern etched on his features. His hand found mine again, grounding me in the rising tide of fear. Alex, ever the calculated one, stepped forward. We can't let fear cloud our judgment. Whatever it is, it's part of our journey. As we edged closer, the sound morphed into a more distinct rhythm, like a drumming pulse, each beat echoing the uncertainty in our hearts. The closer we got, the more I could sense an energy thrumming beneath the surface. It was intoxicating yet terrifying. Together, I finally said, gripping Ethan's hand tighter. We do this together. With one final deep breath, we approached the wall bordered by decades of dust and time, the rhythm now vibrating fervently beneath our feet. Jake placed his hand against the wooden planks, feeling for something beneath. It's a false wall, he declared, a spark of excitement igniting in his eyes. Help me push. We gathered together, each of us siding underneath the weight of our history and the unexplainable force drawing us closer. With a heave, we pushed against the wall, hidden hinges creaking as the years reluctantly parted. The false wall swung open, revealing a small, dark space beyond. A collective gasp erupted around us. The contents met our eyes with an air of mystery, boxes piled high, each one containing countless letters, photographs, journals, and keepsakes wrapped in delicate paper. Those must be the letters, I exclaimed, exhilaration battling with trepidation at what they might reveal. But as I stepped forward, my breath hitching in my throat, another realization washed over me. The walls of our family had held more than just nostalgia. They contained secrets that would unravel the very foundation we stood upon. I could feel their weight pressing against my chest, memories thrumming through my veins. igniting questions that burned hot with urgency. As we rifled through the boxes, sorting quickly through decades of history, I came across a leather-bound journal, the cover strikingly similar to the one I had found before. I exchanged glances with Ethan. "This has to be it," I urged, clutching it tight. "Do we open it?" Jake asked, a knot tightening in his throat. "Yes," I breathed, nerves dancing excitedly. Opening it felt like casting aside a veil, revealing the truth basking in the light. With steady fingers, I cracked it open, and as I read the first words, a chill ran down my spine, connecting the dots between us all. As the ink flowed across the page, my heart leapt but sank simultaneously. "He wrote about the affair," I read aloud, my voice trembling. "But it was more than just that. He was trying to shield us from something dangerous, something dark that happened." "Dangerous?" Jake breathed. "What do you mean?" "I don't know yet," I replied, flipping through pages laden with pain and regret. Each line unraveled another layer of secrets. He was afraid for our safety, not just from the affair, but from the person entangled with it. Someone who didn't want us to know the truth. A silence settled as the weight of our discovery sank in. The walls that had once confined us now felt like the embrace of a storm, swirling chaos around us. Maybe Alex was right. Beneath the surface of our family history lay something gnarly and threatening, rippling with the possibility of danger we'd only begun to uncover. "Your father fought tooth and nail to keep this from us," Alex quietly admitted, his once detached demeanor melting into something more vulnerable. "And yet here we are, looking for pieces he wanted us to have. It's time to face our past together." The storm that raged outside, screeching against the barn roof, mirrored the tumult in my heart. All those years of silence, shame, and secrets. I felt the chains of my father's choices, the weight shifting from him to us, as though lineage bore a burden we were only catching glimpses of in the light. "I guess we don't have a choice anymore, do we?" I murmured, capturing everyone's gaze. "If we're going to heal, we must face what's been hidden." With a determined nod from Ethan, and Jake stepping closer, we gathered around the boxes. Together, as brothers and sisters, we sifted through everything our father had abandoned. The pieces of our family's past, the relationships, the choices wrapped inside the love he tried to protect us from. Hours slipped by, the rain continuing to cascade around us, shielding the barn in its own cocoon. With each revelation, we wrestled with our grief, our relief that the shadows might hold the answers, our connection igniting anew like a rekindled flame. And as the last light from the day slipped into the horizon, we confronted not only our father's truth, but began to rewrite our own together. We had chosen connection over isolation, a choice to be anchored by the bond we shared, no matter how fraught it felt. And just as an elusive peace settled into the corners of my heart, I lifted my head, gazing into the darkness that now felt palpable yet familiar. "Let's keep going," I whispered. In that moment, as we dove deeper, I realized that forgiveness and understanding weren't things to be found. They were forged in the fires of our shared struggle. For in the end, the past had shaped us, but it would never defeat us. As we continued to uncover the layers, we fixed our eyes on a shared horizon, each heartbeat echoing a promise, one of healing, hope, and the profound power of family to weave threads through grief and into understanding. And as the final echoes of thunder rolled away, washing the skies with new clarity, a single thought crystallized in my heart. We may not be able to change what was, but together, we could shape what would be. In this unyielding storm, we found our light, for family, in all its chaos and heartache, is a force resilient enough to withstand the darkest of trials even when the shadows feel like home. Home is not a place, but a feeling shared, and tonight, amidst the storm, we felt it once more.